Good morning, everybody. Well, afternoon, evening. Sorry, I'm used to doing these in the morning. How's everyone doing?
We're doing great.
Glad to
Hey,
be here.
okay.
I've rarely done one of these where I have more than one person on, so this is gonna be fun.
Okay, would you just expand me and minimize the screens of the other two? So, I mean, just, we'll look easy like that. Yeah, no worries.
All attention on you, Bradley.
I'm going to pay for that later on the interview. They're going to get me.
So let's see here. I'll get us pulled up on Facebook while you guys are watching along. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll be sure to get them answered. But let's start here with you, Marc. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are?
I kind of got a long story here. I started diving when I was 10 years old in New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up watching Jacques Cousteau, Jean-Michel Cousteau, and of course, Lloyd Bridges, and everybody watched him when they were a kid. And I really wanted to dive. So my dad put a tank on my back and sent me out in the Manasquan River in New Jersey, and he goes, go to it. I learned how to swim very young. They called me a fish when I was young. After that, when I was about 12 years old, they finally sent me to classes. A gentleman by the name of George Singer, who was a Navy diver, taught me how to dive. I took his class. As a matter of fact, my dive buddy was a 17-year-old woman at the time. It was actually pretty cool. So that's why I got started in diving. A lot of my history has to do with diving the Jersey Shore, all the wrecks. I guess my claim to fame is I did the Andrea Doria, which is a 245-foot dive. I did it numerous times. Brought up a lot of artifacts from there, plus a lot of other wrecks along the Jersey Shore. But my entire goal, my entire life, I always wanted to hunt for Spanish treasure. Well, living in Jersey, you're not going to hunt for too much Spanish treasure, although it's there. I didn't find out till years later. And about 10 years ago, I moved to Florida. And I actually hooked up with Captain Carl Fismer about 6 years ago. Hence, I took one of his classes. They were teaching a class about Sunken Treasure Workshop down in the Keys. I'm a Brad. And I was a student in that class. It was really cool. Okay, I loved it so much. They had a treasure hunters cookout about a month later after the class. I talked to Carl. I go, Carl, we can do something with this. And hence, with Carl and Bradley, Scubawize was born, and here we are today. So now we own a boat called the Pandion. So we're out diving the 1715 fleet, along with teaching classes in the Keys. We get people coming in from all over the world, our students, a lot of return visitors. And we have a classroom session in the morning. We teach them, talk to them about treasure hunting. In the afternoon, we take them out on 2 Spanish galleons. It's a lot of fun.
That sounds really awesome. And I've got some more questions for you. But first, Carl, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got started in this?
Yeah, well, I moved to Florida 52 years ago from the Cincinnati area. And I guess since I've lived here a lot longer than I lived there, I guess you could say I'm kind of from Florida. I always wanted to, when I was little, I wanted to move to Florida. I just didn't know why. But the first 2 things I got in the mail in my life, I was like 8 to 9 years old. I saw an ad on the back of a comic book saying, hey kids, sell flower seeds, win prizes. And one of them was one of those old black void face masks about that big. And I said, I got to have one of those. I didn't know why I wanted one, but so I sold flower seeds. And then that was the first thing I got in the mail in my life was a box of flower seeds. Strange. And the second thing I got was that Voight mask. And as soon as the thing, I came home from school one day and there it was. And I ripped it out. I filled up the tub and I jumped in. And then after that, I started going to the gravel pits. And there's a lot of them dug up in the southern Ohio area. Deep and cold, but not much. There wasn't any shipwrecks there. I didn't know why. So anyway, when I got out of the Army, I went to work for General Motors. The money was good, but I hated it. And so I told a friend of mine I'm going to quit. and moved to Florida. And he said, well, what about your job? And I said, well, I'm sure they'll find somebody to take it. And, you know, I've had this horrible dream. I was recording my life on those little computer cards. You punch in, going in, you punch in. So I was a single dad with two kids, two little kids. Loaded up the car and took off. I had a total of $1,800 and stuffed the car. That was it. I said, well, we're either going to make it or we'll die somewhere along the way. But I got down, started in Sarasota, Florida. And my first job was as a landscaper, cutting grass and things. And I scored a little beach cottage right across the street from Crescent Beach in Sarasota, Siesta Key. It's high dollar property now, but back then I found a nice place that was $400 a month and I had a job. So I did that. And then the fire department, I applied for the fire department and they called me. As a matter of fact, it took 9 months to get that job. And the secret to getting a good job is I'd show up there in person every Monday morning and put on the best clothes I had and anything today. And they said, no, Carl, nothing today. And then I call them every Thursday. No, Carl. I knew the two ladies in the front office, but 9 months I did that. And then the chief called me up and said, Carl, the city commission just gave me 9 openings. And because you showed the most interest in the job, you get the first one. I said, well, thanks, chief. I'll do the best I can. And he said, oh, by the way, you're 6 months too old, but that's okay. I'm going to waive that. And while I was on the fire department, I learned to dive. And I dove once up in Ohio, but I didn't know what I was doing. A friend of mine had the gear. So I ended up diving and being the boat captain on the fire department. One day we were out, we were supposed to be practicing our rescue and recovery work, but we anchored over top of a shipwreck by chance. Wow, look, there's a wreck down there. And, it was a modern wreck. I guess it World War II vintage, and it was broken in half and just laying there. So we started diving on that. 2 tanks, 2 air tanks. It was full of copper tubing, and we were bending it and ripping it and throwing it in the boat. I think 6 of us, 2 tanks each. We had a whole bunch of copper tubing. And by the way, that was good for the environment because copper is bad in the salt water. So next day I took it to the junk shop. I think I got $7.85 for it. But that's got me going. And next thing you know, I read every book in the library, and now I've got hundreds of them. And the only thing is, you know, I ran into Brad somewhere along the way, and I said, oh my God, I just can't be happening. And then Marc came along and he said, you guys are stupid. And I said, well, okay. And he said, let's make a business out of that. So I wish I'd have thought of that 40 years ago, because I dove by myself hundreds of times on 1733. Anyway, now it's pretty good. So we're treasure hunting, and we got that little business going on the side. And that's the story of my life.
Very interesting, Carl. I know
hey,
you got
wake up.
a lot more stories to tell. Before I get to you, Bradley, I just want to jump over a bunch of people in the chat. Ed Merrill says, greetings, Samuel from Rio, Nevada. Paul Wilson, Gary Penta, Angel, Ibneil, Tom Davis. Jim Wilson says, hey, Captives. And Eric Wallace stopped by to say hi. And I do see your question, Samuel, and I'll get to that shortly. It's about rings. So Bradley, let's hear a little bit about you and what you got, how you got mixed up with these guys.
Well, actually, my story begins back with Art McKee. And Fizz, you got a great story. If we have time, if you can tell the story about how you met Art McKee, it's a great story. But Art McKee was one of the grandfathers of this industry. He was back diving, with the old Mark IV, dive helmets on the 1733 wrecks off of the Keys. When I was a little kid, I was so young, I didn't realize what it was. I'd be running around. We stayed at a place that was right next to his. And I'm running around his museum, which is like a castle. He's got all these cannons in the back. I didn't know what they were, but I just thought it was a neat castle to play around in. But then later on, when I was about 12, I ran into, I was down the Keys and I saw off in the distance this beautiful Spanish galleon, this treasure ship, a pirate ship. I thought, oh, this is so neat. So, I went to it and I went up the gangplank and I was looking all around it, just playing, like pirate and stuff. And down below, they had a museum down there. And I kept waiting for someone to show me. So I'm looking around, I'm like going down there. And that's when I got hit with a bug because, it's just something out of like a Disney movie. You see this skeleton next to this pirate chest, in the sand and gold doubloons. And then you go over here and now there's like silver bars stacked with emeralds and, and a pirate's flag. And all this really neat. But yeah, I couldn't find anyone to give me the tour. So finally went to the very back end of the ship, topside, and I met some young lady. And I asked her, I said, well, wait, when are you guys going to do the tour? I'm sitting here waiting. And she's like, well, you're going to have to pay. And, being a precocious 12-year-old, I'm like, hey, you got to pay? I'm thinking, no, I've already been through the whole thing. So I'm going down the gangplank and this guy, the two gentlemen for this sport, this gentleman's walking up. And again, being a precocious 12-year-old, I'm like, hey, mister, I wouldn't go on that boat if I were you. He's like, why? I go, they make you pay. He's like, no. I'm like, yeah, they do. Come with me, young kid. Let's get to the bottom of this. I'm like, no, that's okay. No, come with me, young man. We'll get to the bottom of this. We go up there. We go back to the area where I met the young lady, which is a gift shop. And he goes, this young gentleman is my close friend. I want you to give him a personal tour of the entire museum. And he gets to pick one thing from this gift shop, whatever he wants. And of course, that was Mel Fisher. I had no idea. Here's this thing I found, like Tosha, one of the most famous treasure hunters. And so I was already I didn't have any choice, you can see from my childhood, to, get involved in this. And I love to tell you that I picked a gold royale worth $200,000. No, I picked a treasure map worth 75 cents that had all the little red X's on it where you can find all the treasure. I'm like, okay, I'll go to this one first. This is only 500 million, but that'll be a good start. That'll get me ready for the other ones to go to. And then I was lucky enough to get involved with Commander Bogfoot Weller on the Pandion. Went back in '87, started diving with that and did that for many, many years. And then, God, I don't know what happened. I think I was on a drunken rage and I stumbled and I ran into this gentleman, Carl Fismer. And then that poor guy got stuck with me for the next couple of years.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And then much to Carl's chagrin. And then unfortunately for Marc, he came to one of ours and got involved with us. I'm saying this, we care deeply about, each other. We give each other a hard time. Yeah, Fizz, I know you're getting a little nauseous right now, but no, we do care deeply for each other. And we've got a great team here. We're, going out, finding treasure. We're, the whole point of Scubawize is that, like Fizz, remember when we were teaching people on the cruise ships, we were talking about some of our adventures and we were thinking, it's like, it's like, I bet everyone in the audience is like, well, how do I do this? I want to do this, and so that's the whole point of Scubawize, where we show them, how to pick a project, how to do the research, what equipment you're going to need, how to the legal permits, how to raise funds. And then we take them out diving on, so you don't have just a classroom, we take them out diving on 2 authentic Spanish treasure galleon sites so they can actually see. So you have the live in classroom. It's a great thing and a great team. I'm very lucky to have these 2 gentlemen in my life.
That's awesome.
Oh gosh.
I know you feel sick now. That feeling in the back of your throat, that's the bile rising up right now, Fizz. And Marc, that's the nausea.
Well, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about Scubawize. So you guys just kind of ran into each other and decided that you were going to do it together. And if somebody wanted to attend a class or find out more info, how would they find out about it?
Oh, that's simple. They can just visit our website, which is www.scubawize.com. That's Wise with a Z.
Okay.
You can go there. You can find us on our Facebook page. My cell phone number is directly linked on the website. So if anybody ever calls, they'll get me directly. And I got to tell you about Scubawize. We've made more friends with just doing Scubawize alone. That's been the whole treasure for us right there. Is the friends we've met. And I'm sure you've got a lot of people on the chat that's been with me more than once or twice. But with all of us, it's you.
Yep, we have more people. John Widener from Small Town, USA. Alexandria, Indiana's on. Jim Tippett is on. More people watching and saying hello to you guys.
Very cool.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, one thing, if I can jump here, it's real neat, and either Carl or Mark, if you want to run this. One thing I think that's the neatest thing about the Scubawize, yeah, going back to what you said, Mark, yes, it's, the real treasures of friends, the friendships we make, the adventures we have, the stories we can tell. But it's so neat to hear when our students, because many of our students have gone on, like Mark was initially a student when Fizz and I were doing it. And now he's, co-owner of the Pantheon, bringing up treasure. And a lot of our other students are now out there in the 17, 15 feet with us, or other people bring up treasure. We had that young lady who just attended our most recent seminar. Mark, if you want to talk about it, you know more about this than I do.
Sure. During our last class, I had this woman in there. I'm not going to say her last name, but her first name is Vicky. And we were talking about a steamboat anchor that was out in a lake that they thought was out there. It's been out in 30 feet from the beach and about 10 foot of water. Real murky lake, Lake Henry or something on that order. She called me on Saturday. She was so excited. She actually found the anchor to the steamboat. She sent me a small video of it. And this is one of our students that actually followed through with what we were doing, getting research. Now she's working with the museum and the local municipality about seeing how they can bring this up. So it's the early stages right now, but I think that's really cool that she actually went out and found it.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I don't do the diving. I have this thing about sharks and water, and I'm a little bit scared. But even with me as a treasure hunter, I love when I'm out there, the research, the history, following through. That's one of my favorite parts about the whole trip along, going out detecting.
Now, see, that's the best part of Scubawize, though. You don't have to be a diver. You can come out, you can snorkel with us. These Spanish galleons hit reefs. So they're in shallow water. Our first one's only in 12 to 15 foot of water, 15 foot at high tide. And the water in the Keys is like gin clear. Now, the Cannon that we go to, the other galleon, that's in about 30 foot of water, and you can see it from the surface. Bradley dives down to the bottom to that thing. I've got pictures of him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, free dive and hold my breath and pose for the photos with the
pose
people.
For cameras, for pictures.
Gary's been trying to convince me, if you guys can promise that I won't see any sort of sea creature underwater, then I'm in.
You mean besides Brad?
I was waiting for someone. That was such a great one-liner. It was just on a platter. I was going to take that if you didn't, Carol.
Let's see. Jim Wilson said, 3 years ago today, I took your Scubawize class and dove on the 1733 wreck site. What an amazing experience.
Very cool. Glad I've had you, Jim.
And let's see here. Gary dropped a link in the chat about Expedition Unknown. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Bradley?
Okay. Actually, I really enjoy working with them. I got to tell you, Josh Gates is such a super nice, friendly guy. Because, you never know about these people. They do one persona on TV, but I can tell you, even if I've got his personal cell phone, if I text it right now or email, he'd answer. And he'd be like, hey, how's it going? And it's a great experience. They do a tremendous amount of research. And what I like about it is they visit, exotic locales. And it's a lot of like the history which you're learning, which a lot of us, that's why we're in this. It's, we love the history behind and solving the mystery. And so it's been a great experience working with them. I've done several episodes and I've had a great time. The whole production team, I can't speak highly enough of them. So, but unfortunately, like a lot of things, there's only so many treasures out there in the world, and I don't know, I think they might be running out of material, but it's been a great experience. It's a great show.
That's awesome. So I'm sure over the years, you guys have done a lot of diving. You guys have been out on a lot of adventures together. What's one of your favorite adventures you've been on, Marc?
Boy, at this point, so my biggest adventure is my Mount Everest, which was the Andrea Doria, diving down on that, bringing up some portholes, brought up a bunch of china from there. I used to dive on a boat called the Seeker out of Brielle, New Jersey. If any of your followers ever heard of the book, The Shadow Diver, it's all about the Seeker going out to the Andrea Doria and to the the U-869, which is a U-boat off of New Jersey. I also got to dive that, and U-875, which is also a sunk off of New Jersey. But that's my biggest one. But actually, I gotta say, diving the 1715 fleet's been a dream since I've been 10 years old. I'm doing it now. We are pulling up, some treasure here and there, and we're doing okay. And you know what? I'm pretty happy. Hooking up with these two guys has been one of the best things I've done in my life.
That's awesome.
I can see the heads explode from here. Sorry.
They're getting bigger and bigger.
I can't stand it. I can't hold it up.
We've got Emily, Little Dirt Digger. She says, hi, Carl. And then Allison Walker up in Canada. She says, hi, all. Team Awesome on right now.
She's a sweetheart. I love you, Allison.
She's such a nice lady. I like Allison a lot.
Allison's been in our class too.
Oh, she has taken it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's awesome. She
certainly has.
Well, Carl, I've been waiting for this. Tell me one of your favorite treasure hunting stories.
Well, I guess one of my favorites, I put together a trip to the wreck of the Conception once. I thought I knew what I was doing. The Conception is closest point of land is Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic, and the wreck itself is 75 miles offshore. And so I raised some money. I thought it was going to be enough, but it wasn't. And I put together 5 other guys besides myself. Now this was before I knew Brad or Marc, and we got a 50-foot boat marathon, and we took it all the way over there. I had bought 7 brand new metal detectors, not from Kellyco, and then a Bauer $10,000 compressor, and we finally got out there all that time in trouble, and not one of the brand new metal detectors worked. It's a big lesson I learned. Always get your money in advance so you can test your equipment. The Bauer compressor didn't work. Anyway, we had to muddle through that 2 months out there on that reef offshore. Didn't hear a phone ring, if that means anything, because every time I tell somebody that, they say, wow, I wish I could say that. And you can say it. But anyway, but there were so many coins. We picked up thousands of coins, even though I had myself and 5 other divers, and then a couple of people minding the boat. And so it was a successful trip, and we got back. And actually, I did a big show for your former boss, Stu Auerbach. I went to your old store up on the big highway. He got me on television in Orlando to advertise it, and Stu is a good promoter. I mean,
he was.
And crazy. Of course, that was probably before you were even born, but the traffic was so bad, the cops had to come out 3 or 4 times during the day. But anyway, we sold a lot of coins there, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm surprised we never did it again. It might have been there was more headaches, but the store was jam-packed all day, and the street was crowded. And next time I go on a big trip, I make sure that the equipment works before we leave, because if it had been working good, that trip would have been extremely successful. There was coins, just hand fan anywhere on the wreck, and you're picking them up. Here, this is one of them right here. That other thing's my Medic Alert necklace. That one, I found that coin 35 years ago.
Wow.
So the point is, plan and be sure you have a plan, and be sure if you put anybody out there putting the trip together, the backers are very important people. And notice I didn't say the word invest. I said the backers. Those are people that'll put up money. You got to have it ahead of time to test your equipment. That's the biggest lesson I learned in this business.
That's a good lesson. That's a really good lesson. At least you found some coins, though. That's
yeah,
good.
we did. And I kept telling them, the backers later said, think of how good it would have been if any of that equipment would have worked. That was like, that was all about $15,000 worth of stuff. Wow. It was worthless. I mean, I got my money back for them. I just felt like not killing anybody, but I was mad.
I'm going to jump back over here to the comments. Allison said she's going to bring some more rum when next time she's down.
Nice.
And
nice.
Jeff says he needs to get certified for scuba. He lives in Michigan, surrounded by water and wrecks.
Nice.
Allison has a question here. What detectors are the crews swinging? Any new machines?
That's a good question. We all have our favorite detectors in the water. I know Carl uses the J.W. Fisher Pulse. I like the Aqua Pulse. I'll use both. I've even had my MindLab Excalibur down there, and it works fine too. You know, it's not the detector because they all work. They all work fine. It's what you like. They're all gonna. If the treasure's there, they're all gonna find it.
Yeah.
When somebody asks me that, I say they're all, you know, they all work or they wouldn't be in business. So you just need to pick out what's best for you and talk to people that have them. I met the owner of one of the really big metal detector companies at the DEMA show. I don't know, do you guys do that DEMA show? I did it.
Been to one, and I believe we're going to go to the one in Vegas this year.
Yeah. Oh, that was okay. Be careful out there because that big convention hall in Las Vegas, the parking lot is across the street. And then to get to the traffic crossing, you got a couple of blocks in each direction. Most people just walk across the street, and them cops out there are writing hundreds of jaywalking tickets.
Wow.
So be careful if you go to Las Vegas.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah. And they're stopping them in groups because, you know, I just wanted to say that because I hated giving them that $100 they charged me because I crossed the street, not at the corner. Maybe that'll be some revenge. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about, but anyway, I tell people they're all good or they wouldn't stay in business. And that's the truth because I've seen them come and go. I got hired by a couple of companies over the years that we never made it to sales because all the models they're making and I'm testing out in the water, it just kept flooding, you know, sealing them up. That's why the underwater machines cost more. Anyway, that's it.
That's what I like to tell people because they ask me that all the time. Which one's better? Which one's the best? And I mean, it's like comparing Chevy and Ford. People are going to prefer one brand over the other. So, I mean, if there's treasure there, that detector will find it. Gary, let's see, Vicky Chilla joined. Gary Penza said, Captain Fizz recently told me a story about how a young boy, he would play hooky from school all the time. He'd spend his days down at the river frog gigging until he finally got caught. Get in trouble down there doing some frog gigging, Carl?
I don't know what to say about that. I mean, those charges were never proven.
And see, Sean says hi to everybody. Angel says, Scubawize class was one of my best experiences ever. Then I became a backer.
Yes, Angel's been out with us on the 1715 fleet on the Pandion.
Yeah.
Okay.
As is Gary Penna. Same thing.
Yeah, backer's a good word, especially if the backers are diving with you, because you really get to know everybody a lot better, and there's a little more bond of friendship involved in that. I like it that way.
Yep. Let's see. They said, is there a chip shortage affecting the delivery of new machines? Brett asked. Well, I think there's a shortage on everything right now. It doesn't matter if it's I mean, I walked into Walgreens and their coolers were empty, and I'm like, why is there no
Wow.
water in here? I think it's just, I know some specific companies are having some trouble getting parts, but you know, we machines are still coming out. Let's see here. So let's talk about your boat, the Pandion. Let's talk about how it got the name, a little bit of that history.
You want me to jump in that one?
Brad's been on it a lot longer than the rest of us.
Yep.
Okay. The history on the Pandion, actually, she was the keel was laid in 1970 with a company called Stapleton out of Miami, Florida. And initially, she was a 6-pack dive vessel down in the Keys called Miss Budweiser. And then a gentleman, John Hallis, bought it, and he renamed it Pandion, which is interesting because that's from Greek mythology, one of the kings of Athens, but it's the genus for the birds of prey over the ocean, such as the osprey. So that was a way, to my understanding, that was the reason that he chose that, because she's out in the ocean, she's hunting treasure, just like a bird of prey. And so he had it, and then he found a lot of treasure with that. I mean, the jewelry, what's it called? The jewelry patch on the Nieves wreck site. I mean, the gold Madonna with emeralds, and so many other treasures were found in this jewelry patch area. Matter of fact, so many. Let me try that again. So much treasure was coming up when my mentor in this, Bob Weller, bought it, or as you might know, Commander Bob Frogfoot Weller. When
he dated Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, he did. He was also he was with UDT Team 1. He was one of the co-authors of the Navy Dive Manual, with the first man to go behind enemy lines on a surfboard. It is an amazing man. I was very lucky to have him, as part of my life and as a mentor initially when I got into this. But then he got the boat, and it was interesting when he was cleaning out the bilge. This vessel had already brought up so much treasure. He was finding silver pieces of eight in the bilge, just cleaning the boat. That didn't happen to us, and we bought it. Dang it! Oh. But he had it, and then he switched out the gas engine to a diesel engine. That's when I came on board in 1987. He had it for about a year, and I was diving with him on that. Had a lot of good memories on that boat. Lots of treasure. I mean, that little boat has brought up over, I'd say easily about $7 million of treasures across the transom of that vessel.
Wow.
And she's now one of the oldest vessels out there. And then, Bob got to a point where he was getting older. He kind of wanted me to branch off and start doing my own. So he encouraged me to go take the helm with Pandion and buy that because he had to let it go, and had a lot of great adventures. I mean, I've been with that boat 10 miles out at sea off of Georgia on projects, down the Keys on projects, the 1715 fleet. Then I had to let it go. Then Carl and I grabbed it, and then Marc came on board. I don't know if you know this movie. This is an old movie, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
Where they find that old burned out car with this famous history. It's kind of been like that when I got my hands on it. Unfortunately, she'd been neglected from the previous owners. The wood was rotten, the engine was rusted, didn't run the next, and redid everything on this, polymer decking, new engine, new electronics, sand and stuff. Then Fizz and I remember when we got it, same thing, new engine, new transmission. Each time it's like we get our hands on this boat. And then Marc got involved recently. He did a lot of work on it, new, steel side ladder, new decking for our dive platforms at the back, repainting it. So it's just, there's so much history behind this vessel. And it's interesting, the seasoned salvagers out there, they're almost more happy than us being out there seeing Pandion out there, because it's got so much history. They're like, it's so good to see the Pandion out there still working. Like, oh, what about us? What are we,
Yeah.
So it's definitely a piece of history. If the time does come to retire her, I'd love to donate her to a museum or something like that everyone could climb aboard and touch the history. That she's been a book, she's been on the news. I mean, all the treasure that's brought up, all the stories and adventures she's had. So neat vessel.
That's awesome. Now, if somebody wanted to attend one of the Scubawize classes, how often do you guys have them?
Well, because of COVID, it was a lot less last year. We'll tell you that. We started back up. Because of our season out with the Pandion, our next class is going to be in October. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, but I think the date's the 23rd of October will be the next class. Okay. We don't want not having it during the summers because we have backers on the Pandion, and our backers have to come first. So we got to be out there.
Yeah, we got to be on the sites bringing up treasure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what they're backing us.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. When is the actual season for getting out and looking for it, for treasure?
Brett?
Okay. Carl, I'll throw this at you too, because it always seems to change. I want to say sometimes, and correct me on this, Carl, please. And sometimes we can be out there as early as May. Sometimes we don't get out there till like the end of June, depending upon the weather. Sometimes our season can go to October. Sometimes, they can shorten. It just a lot depends on the weather. Like if we've got, the systems out there in the ocean. If you've got 5-foot waves and people out there on surfboards, not going out. So
right. Yeah.
This is about the worst season I ever heard of. I've got 22 years in since 1980, so they're not all in a row, but John Brandon, who's actually our boss on that fleet, this is his 50th year.
wow.
And he told me, he said, I've never seen the weather this bad here. So it's the worst weather we ever had, I guess.
When you guys are out there and you're doing your diving and we're talking about the weather, what if a hurricane comes up the coast along that treasure coast? How does it affect turning over? I mean, I know how it affects it on the beach. What happens out further and see where you guys are going?
The same thing happens underwater. The bottom gets stirred up. Pieces of rock get turned over and things like that. It really gets stirred up. A lot of times, if a galleon's been covered in sand, we'll start seeing ballast on the top of it. It's not covered anymore.
Oh, wow.
Okay, just like, when you're doing a beach after a hurricane, you're looking for those cuts. You're looking for those
right.
Everything. So it's just the same underwater.
Now, I know
when Irma went through, what was that, 2 or 3 years ago, Brad and I have been waiting for a big storm to hit Naples, and it did. It went through there, and then it came north, and it went over through Vero. 2 days later, Brad and I was down there in Naples, and I mean, the trees are in the street. And we finally got down there, and we get the metal detectors out because there is a good wreck down there. And there were 2 surveyors, I guess. The county sent 2 surveyors out there, and they were setting up and shooting their azimuths and anything else. And one of them said to me, gee, how much are those metal detectors? So I started talking to him, and I said, Brad and I came here hoping that a lot of this sand would be gone. And he said, no, there's a lot more sand here now than there was last week. So I wait 25 years for a hurricane and it brings more sand. But I did find 21 cents and 3 pop tops. So the trip wasn't wasted. Yeah. And then when the Irma got up here to the Tampa area, where I'm a little bit south, Sarasota, it went across and went through Vero. The Vero Metal Detector Club boys were showing me coins they found from Irma, and I said, "Wow, you guys are doing good." Some nice chunky 8 reals and a lot of small ones. And I picked one up, nice chunky 8 real up, and I said, "How deep was this?" He said, "Well, I got there and I started to turn my metal detector on, and I looked down and said, wow, look at that. They picked up 8 coins before they ever turned their machines on." Yeah.
Wow. One day that'll happen for me. Some of my friends it's happened to, but not yet. I know one of the best hurricanes we had for beach activity, well, at least that I got to actually go detect, because most of the time trees are everywhere and I'm trying to help my parents and grandma, so I'm always late to the party. But Hurricane Matthew, that was a good one. It like really turned that coast up, and for months we were finding really good finds on the beach.
It used to be that, well, it still is probably the best time to be out there is during the hurricane. But over in Fort Pierce now, for the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 hurricanes, they're blocking off the bridges. They won't let you go out there. And I won't say any more about it. It used to be there'd be 200 guys out there wearing wetsuits with their metal detectors right in the water. But that was in the good days when the gold coins were turning over. Now you can't go out.
I had a story after a storm went through, and this guy went out and he didn't get to get there until the second day, and he was so mad because his pail, he only found like 189 reals, and the guy who got there the day before found over 300, and I'm like, and you're mad because you found 189? One of the craziest stories I'd ever heard.
Well, I can tell you, back in the old days, there was that many.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
5-gallon pails full. I remember hearing those stories.
Maybe one day I'll find something like that. I don't know.
Well, it used to be that way. A storm would go by and we get out in the boat as soon as we could. And I'd jump in right away there at the cabin site just to see. And they'd be laying there visible, even from storms. Best day I had there, I picked up 508 8s and 4s in the one day.
Wow.
Yeah. Boy, do I miss that.
I got a neat little story that you might find kind of interesting talking about this. Imagine having your own private island to be go all to yourself to be bringing up treasure. This is a little bit behind the scenes stuff, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but when we did the episode on Captain Kidd for Expedition Unknown, we went to that place, Mona Island, because it's just a perfect location. And I remember it's owned by the Park Service, by the government there. So private individuals we had to get permission to go out there and do the filming. And one guy had been doing his research ahead of time. And I remember the production crew and Josh was like, I don't know why, but the head ranger, he really wants it. He's heard about it. He wants to talk to you and stuff. I'm like, okay, I don't know why. He pulls me aside and he shows all the stuff that he's been finding there. The coins, the gold and stuff. And it just in the water. And I'm like, son of a gun. He said, don't tell anyone. Of course, now I'm going on national, they can broadcast recording, but that was interesting. That was a little behind. I mean, because the park rangers, they got that whole place to themselves. I know, Fizz, you're going to jump in on this one.
Yeah, well, it used to be you could go there, and then those guys are from Puerto Rico. They put park rangers out there, and of course you ain't allowed to do nothing, but they're doing quite well.
Yeah.
The Columbus was in prison in the Dominican Republic in 1504, and the governor at the time was named Bobadilla, and he hated Columbus. He hated him. But Bobadilla was just getting ready to sail the next day with 54 ships, a big fleet, 54 ships, treasure loaded. And Columbus warned Bobadilla. He said, there's a storm coming, don't go. We hate you. They went, and most of them, Bobadilla got killed along with most of the other ones. And that is the fleet where the story about the golden table came from. In the research, I have the largest collection of archival research, a private collection in the world, and you can't get any more in Spain because the king found out he was giving away billions of dollars worth of information, which he was, and so that's all stopped now. So anybody looking for research, I got it. But that golden table story stemmed out of the 1504 research that Jack Haskins did. And what it said, what it translates, it said a gold nugget big enough to eat off of. Now, that in itself, a gold, I don't care what size plate that might have been, that's one heck of a nugget. And then somebody, I'm not going to say who, translated that into a golden table. And then later on, there was a golden table studded with jewels and gems. Anyway, that's where that one came from.
Is this the same gentleman with the gold Madonna that keeps growing, Carl?
Yeah. And not only that, the gold Madonna also has a gold baby Jesus in her hand, and he's holding a golden world with all kinds of emeralds and stuff. Yeah, They just keep adding on to it.
That's so funny.
Actually, I found that last week. I didn't want anybody to know about it.
I understand, Carl. We're coming over to visit.
Oh my gosh.
So it's the entire viewing audience. We're all coming to your house and we're going to chip off pieces of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
just a
but
little
that
piece.
Mona Island would be a good place to be able to be turned loose, but it's illegal now. It's only legal for the park rangers.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to do this. We're going to have an event coming up in the showroom and get you up there, Marc, so that we can have, get people to know who you are, a little bit more about Scubawize. And in our Orlando showroom, we're actually going to be carrying some of your Scubawize shirts and hats. So
awesome. That's great news.
Yeah, absolutely. So that everybody can, wear them. I was looking for mine, but I was, like I said, I was running home because Gary sent me one. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where is it? I didn't have time to put it on.
That's okay.
Actually, we should have been wearing them too, guys. We're not doing very good marketing. We all should be wearing them. We're getting an F in marketing.
Hey, I got the quantities of them, so I grabbed one this morning.
Okay.
So, is there anything else you guys want to cover? Usually, I go about half an hour. We went a little bit over, but I've been enjoying talking to you guys. Anything else?
No, we're looking forward to coming out with you guys and being out with Kellyco for the day, the three of us.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
I think Carl's probably going to bring some coins and bring us 3 books with him. So if anybody wants to get a personal autograph from Carl, they can.
Yeah, that's only to have 3 books, and once I sold all 3 of them, then they were gone. So you're supposed to bring more than that.
I got my collection, Carl. I got mine autographed from you.
Good for you. Yeah, no, it'd be a lot of fun. I like to do events like that. I go to just about all the metal detector ones. At least if I can, I will. And I've been to many of them, and I do all the pirate shows. It's fun.
It is. Like you guys said at the very beginning of this, Marc, you said the treasures really are the friendships. I mean, the people that you meet, whether it's out metal detecting on a salvage boat or the treasure hunters cookout, that was absolutely amazing. I'm glad that I was able to attend at least one of those. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and you meet some really amazing people, and they're friends for life.
Yes, they are. And we hope the treasure hunter cookout's going to happen next year. We are looking forward to it. Everybody.
Yes, absolutely. So, well, I want to thank you guys for joining tonight, and we'll get together and we'll get this all planned out for the event in the showroom, get it up on social, get it marketed so people can attend and come out and meet you guys in person. And I hope you guys have a great night. And if you're going out this weekend, I hope you find something really good.
We'll be out there. So thank you very much.
You're
Pleasure.
welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.